All right. Hey, folks, happy Friday. It is time for Romeo and Juliet, Act 1, Scene 4. Okay. So we jump forward in time a little bit here. And we have, as you can see here, Romeo, Mercutio, Benvolio, other maskers, torchbearers, and a boy with a drum. It is dark, or it's at least getting dark, because you see there are these torchbearers, people holding torches, and they're on their way to the Capulet party now. We got to talk about a couple things. First of all, you might think Romeo and Benvolio going to this Capulet party is dangerous or a bad idea because they are Montagues and because these families hate each other. But in that time, when a rich family or high society family would throw a party, they would expect that there'd be a certain number of young men who would crash the party. These young men would be called maskers, as it says here, because they'd be wearing those like masquerade type masks. Okay. And what that meant when they would crash the party is, hey, we're just here to have a good time, you know, free food, dancing, meet people, etc. We don't mean any harm. And so even though it's a Capulet party, Romeo and Benvolio, even though they might be identified, they're not worried about it because this was a normal thing that people would do. Okay. Secondly, we got to talk about Mercutio. Now we know that he was invited to the party. He was on the list that Romeo read. He's the third best friend. Romeo, Benvolio, and Mercutio are the trio. And he appears for the first time in this scene. He is kind of a joker of the friend group. He's really smart and quick. And as you read in your book, you'll see like every time Mercutio speaks, there are a lot of footnotes. He makes cultural references that you and I wouldn't understand because they're 450-year-old cultural references. And those references are explained in the footnotes. He also, like I mentioned, jokes a lot. A lot of those jokes are sexual in nature, but not all of them, of course. I'm not going to explain the full length of every line Mercutio says, but there's a lot. And you can see like all these footnotes. This is page 24 in your book. It's like a quarter of a page, a third of a page of footnotes, primarily from Mercutio. So check that out. I also noticed on the audiobook, they call him Mercutio, which I have never heard before, but that's a thing. So anyway, let's listen in. Act 1, Scene 4. It's a slightly shorter scene as they're trying to get Romeo ready, cheered up, because they are on their way to the party. So here we go. Listen in.
Scene 4, a street. Enter Romeo, Mercutio, Benvolio, with 5 or 6 maskers, torchbearers, and others.
What? Shall this speech be spoke for our excuse, or shall we on without apology?
The date is out of such prolixity. We'll have no Cupid hoodwinked with a scarf, bearing a Tartar's painted bow of laugh, scaring the ladies like a crow-keeper, nor no without book prologue faintly spoke after the prompter for our entrance. But let them measure us by what they will. We'll measure them a measure, and be gone.
Give me a torch. I'm not for this ambling. Being but heavy, I will bear the light.
Nay, gentle Romeo. We must have you dance.
Not I, believe me. You have dancing shoes with nimble soles. I have a soul of lead, so stakes me to the ground. I cannot move.
Okay, so as we're seeing this back and forth, Benvolio says, we'll measure them a measure and be gone. Like Romeo's worried because they're going to feel late. The party's already started. Benvolio says, hey, it's all right. We'll just get in there. We'll dance one dance and we'll leave. And as you can see at the top here, Romeo says, bring me a torch. I'm not for this ambling. Being but heavy, I will bear the light. So even though he's still sad boy Romeo, he's really playing with the language here. And Mercutio is feeding right into it. They're both playing with the language. Romeo says, being but heavy, I will bear the light. So we've got the opposites of heavy and light, but also heavy means sad. And when he says, I'll bear the light, it means I'll carry the torch so that I don't have to dance. And then again, he says, you have dancing shoes with nimble soles, like the bottom of your shoe. I have a soul of lead because I'm heavy with sadness. Okay. So as they continue, there's some more of this wordplay. And then Romeo will eventually in a bit here, talk about why he really doesn't want to go. So let's continue. You'll see Mercutio in a bit calls love a tender thing, and Romeo goes back to what he was saying in scene 1, talking to Benvolio. Is love really a tender thing? It might seem like it, but it's rough. So there you go.
You are a lover. Borrow Cupid's wings and soar with them above a common bound.
I am too sore and pierced with his shaft to soar with his light feathers, and so bound I cannot bound a pitch above dull woe. Under love's heavy burden do I sink.
And to sink it in, should you burden love. Too great oppression for a tender thing.
Is love a tender thing? It is too rough, too rude, too boisterous, and it pricks like thorn.
If love be rough with you, be rough with love. Prick love for pricking, and you beat love down. Give me a case to put my visage in.
Putting on a mask.
A visored for a visored. What care I what curious eye doth quote deformities? Here are the beetle brows shall blush for me.
Come, knock and enter, and no sooner in, but every man betake him to his legs.
A torch for me. Let wantons, light of heart, tickle the senseless rushes with their heels. For I am proverbed with a grandsire phrase. I'll be a candle holder and look on. The game was ne'er so fair, and I am done.
Tough. Done's the map. Done's the mouse.
There we go.
The constable's own word. If thou art done, we'll draw thee from the mire of this, Sir Reverence, love, wherein thou stickst up to the ears. Come, we burn daylight. How?
Nay, that's not so.
I mean, sir, in delay we waste our lights in vain, like lamps by day. Take our good meaning, for our judgment sits 5 times in that, ere once in our 5 wits.
And we mean well.
All right, pay attention to this next little bit here, because this is going to explain another reason, besides just I'm sad, another reason that Romeo doesn't want to go.
In going to this mask, but 'tis no wit to go.
Why, may one ask?
I dreamt a dream tonight.
And so did I,
Well, what was yours?
that dreamers often lie.
In bed asleep, while they do dream things true.
Oh, then I see Queen Mab hath been with you.
All right, I'm glad that this is where it pauses on the screen, because this all goes together. So Romeo says, "'Tis no wit to go." Okay, we mean well in going to this party to be maskers, but 'tis no wit to go. And on the footnote here, it says it's not intelligent to go. But it's not like if you or I don't want something, or we don't want to go somewhere and we go, that's stupid, right? That's not what he's talking about. What he means is it's a bad idea to go. And why does he think it's a bad idea to go? Well, because he had a dream, okay? Something in Romeo's dream made him think it was a bad idea to go to this party. And here's some good quick wordplay. I dreamt a dream tonight, and so did I. Well, what was yours? And Mercutio says that dreamers often lie, okay? Dreams are unreliable. You can't trust them. And Romeo adds, yeah, they lie in bed asleep while they dream things that are true. Okay, clever, good. But then Mercutio says, oh, then I see Queen Mab hath been with you. Who's Queen Mab? Well, Mercutio is about to describe her in excruciating detail, but Queen Mab is a queen of the fairies, okay? It's an old Celtic folk name, and kind of like the idea of the Sandman. What Queen Mab does is she comes to people who are sleeping and she brings them dreams. And based on what kind of person they are, that determines what kind of dream she brings to them. So as we read this Queen Mab speech, I'm going to let it read through half of it and then pause real quick, and then the second half. The first half is Mercutio just straight up describing Queen Mab. And if we're going to put that whole description, 14 lines, into a summary of 2 words, he says, oh, Queen Mab, she's tiny. Okay. Then he gives this list of these different kinds of dreamers and explains what kinds of dreams Queen Mab brings to them. So, I see Queen Mab hath been with you. Let's hear this description of Queen Mab. Here we go.
She is the fairy's midwife, and she comes in shape no bigger than an agate stone on the forefinger of an alderman, drawn with a team of little atomies athwart men's noses as they lie asleep. Her wagon spokes made of long spinner's legs, the cover of the wings of grasshoppers, the traces of the smallest spider's web, the collars of the moonshine's watery beams, her whip of cricket's bone, the lash of film, her wagoner, a small gray-coated gnat, not half so big as a round little worm pricked from the lazy finger of a maid. Her chariot is an empty hazelnut, made by the joiner squirrel or old grub, time out of mind, the fairies' coachmakers. And in this state she gallops, night by night, through lovers' brains. And then they dream of love, or courtiers' knees that dream on curtsies straight, or lawyers' fingers who straight dream on fees, or ladies' lips who straight on kisses dream, which oft the angry Mab with blisters plagues, because their breaths with sweetmeats tainted are.
Okay, I'm going to pause it right there for a second. I looked away and I forgot to pause it. That's okay. So all the way through to what is line 74 in the audiobook, it's line 69 in your book. That is all description. Okay, it talks about her chariot being an empty hazelnut. Her whip is a cricket's bone. She has these little gnats that drive her little chariot around. Now Mercutio is in the middle of this list of different types of people and the dreams that Queen Mab brings to them. So you can see line 75 here. It says, in this state, she gallops night by night through lovers' brains, and then they dream of love. Okay, so there's an example, right? A person who is a lover gets to have a dream about love. Okay, and it goes on and continues. And there are at least 7 different types of people that he describes here and the dreams that Mab brings to them. Okay, so let's continue through the rest of the Queen Mab speech. I will point out before I push play again that as Mercutio is giving this speech, if you're watching in a movie or a performance, frequently what they'll do is they'll have the actor playing Mercutio get louder and louder and more intense as he gives this speech. And then when he gets to the end of the speech, he's like pretty much yelling, and Romeo has to interrupt him. So Romeo will interrupt him as he's getting carried away with this speech. Here we go.
Sometime she gallops o'er a courtier's nose, and then dreams he of smelling out a suit. And sometimes comes she with a tithe pig's tail, tickling a parson's nose as he lies asleep. Then dreams he of another benefice. Sometime he driveth o'er a soldier's neck, and then dreams he of cutting foreign throats, of breaches, ambuscados, Spanish blades, of healths 5 fathom deep. And then, anon, drums in his ear, at which he starts and wakes, and being thus frightened, swears a prayer or two, and sleeps again. This is that very Mab that plats the manes of horses in the night, and bakes the elf locks in foul sluttish hairs, which once untangled much misfortune bodes. This is the hag, when maids lie on their backs, that presses them, and learns them first to bear, making them women of good carriage. This is she.
Peace, peace, Mercutio, peace. Thou talkst of nothing.
True.
And Mercutio at this point snaps back to himself. Peace, Mercutio, peace, you speak of nothing. And Mercutio says, bingo. That's right. I'm talking about nothing. I'm talking about dreams. Dreams are just nothing, Romeo. And remember, this scene started with Romeo being afraid of going to the party because of a dream that he had. And so Mercutio is going to tell him right here in this next bit, what are you worried about? Peace, Mercutio, peace. You talk of nothing. That's right. I talk of nothing. I talk of dreams. Dreams are nothing. So what are you so worried about? Go to the party, man. Have fun. Your dream means nothing. Okay. He calls dreams the children of an idle brain, as thin a substance as the air. Okay. So nothing that they should be worried about. And then Benvolio pops back in, and you can see it on here. We'll hear it in a moment. Hey guys, you're talking, but we're forgetting what we're supposed to be doing here. We're gonna miss dinner. That is very important, of course. And so then they're on their way. We are almost done with this scene. Here we go. I'll talk to you after Romeo's last line here as we finish it up.
I talk of dreams, which are the children of an idle brain, begot of nothing but vain fantasy, which is as thin of substance as the air, and more inconstant than the wind, who woos even now the frozen bosom of the north, and being angered puffs away from thence, turning his face to the dew-dropping south.
This wind you talk of blows us from ourselves. Supper is done, and we shall come too late.
I fear too early, for my mind misgives some consequence, yet hanging in the stars shall bitterly begin his fearful date with this night's revels, and expire the term of a despised life closed in my breast by some vile forfeit of untimely death. But he that hath the steerage of my course, direct my sail. On, lusty gentlemen.
Strike drum.
Exit. Scene.
All right. Oh, cool. They're going to show us an ad here. That's fun. Well, anyway, before Grammarly gets started here, it says, oh yeah, let's skip that ad. That's annoying.
Scene 5.
All right. So at the end there, Romeo says, my mind misgives some consequence yet hanging in the stars. Remember from the prologue, the stars are really important in this play. A pair of star-crossed lovers take their life, right? And so Romeo says, my mind misgives some consequence yet hanging in the stars shall begin with this night's revels, with this night's party. So he's afraid that something that happens at the party is going to cause some vile forfeit of untimely death. He thinks that because of something that happens at the party, it might cause even his own death, right? That's interesting. We've read the prologue. We know what's going to happen. So it's clear that this party is going to be very important. He does say, though, we know Romeo doesn't want to go, but he says, he that hath the steerage of my course direct my sail, on, lusty gentlemen. So he says, I'm going to let God direct my fate. I guess I'll go anyway. Come on, here we go. They march around the stage, they exit, and then as you can see, scene 5 begins right here with some servants frantically continuing to work and get ready as the party is underway. We will read scene 5, our party scene, on Monday. I'm looking forward to it. Talk to you then.